Hello, welcome everybody. Here we are again with another session about ZBrush and jewelry. My name is Nacho Riesco, and we will be here on the next 2 hours sculpting a ring design with ZBrush. So, okay, let me check this sound. Maybe the music is a little bit high. So looks like everything is working fine now. So again, my name is Nacho Riesco. As I said before, here I am once a month, sculpting organic jewelry designs with ZBrush. And today I have found this very interesting design from René Lalique, a very well-known jeweler, very famous for his Art Nouveau styles. And I found this drawing. I guess it is from him, from Lalique. I'm not 100% sure, but I found it very interesting in terms of, you can see here we have the different views, the top view, the side view, and the profile view. Maybe it could be interesting how to translate a drawing into a 3D object, into a 3D jewelry object. And this is the design that we are going to develop during today and during the next streaming. Maybe this will take about two live sessions, maybe no more, maybe, because it is not very complex. So we will talk about how to have all the measurements under control, how to set out the finger size, how to create the necessary gaps here for the different colors, how to sculpt the shell of the beetle on top. So okay, so it could be interesting. Okay, let me see if you have any questions as usual and comments. Just leave your comments, question, and I'll be here glad to answer all of your questions and comments about the live. Like, we can talk about a completely different thing in terms of it hasn't to be exactly theme related about what I am doing. So you can be here talking about ZBrush with about any other workflows or themes. So it's up to you. So welcome everybody. So let's see how many people. Yeah, a lot of people here watching. Thanks a lot for being here, and let's get started. Maybe I can put this here. This okay. I think this is better. Okay, so let's start. You can see here I have gathered some information about beetles. You can see this is a very well-known kind of beetle design from Egypt. And the idea is that we're going to have this top part of the scarab or the beetle body. I think it has to be both head and the body both together at one single volume, because this, like this, you can see here we have here some references. This could be the very well-known kind of Egypt beetle, and this will be assembled as a different part of the ring. That means that this is not going to be casted in metal. So they are going to be made with carved stones. We can buy many of these items from many jewelry suppliers, but we are going to sculpt, we are going to create and design the main body of the ring, the wings, maybe these two little legs that come from the top of the body, and they are, both of them are holding red stones here on top. And this is very interesting. You can see here, this is the side view or the front view. This is the front, this is the top, this is the side. Yeah, and here we have a drawing of the detail of the bottom of the shank of the ring band here, which it has this kind of triangular design with spaces for being enameling with color enamel with different colors. Here we have a reference here, something like this, but where, as I said before, where the body of the beetle is going to be changed by a carved stone like this one. So we will decide the measurements during the sculpting process. but we are going to try to keep the the same proportion from the original drawing, like this one. Okay, let's start. Hey, Nacho, Ezio, it is not a cat. Yeah, a cat. Cat here nearby me walking. It's my little cat. Today we are going to sculpt a beetle because at first time I understood that you were referring to the design, not about the animal I have here walking around me. So let's start. As usual, when we need to create a ring, most of the time, maybe we can say 99% of the time, we start from the cylinder. We are going to set up this cylinder to the finger size. This is my personal preference. I'm going to make it a little bit longer. Let's open this left tray. Let's go to the C plugins and let's open the scale master. And let's read now how big is this object that we have now on the canvas. So just clicking here, set the scene scale. The first decision to take is to decide on which units we are about to work. So okay, the best choice or the most common choice is working in millimeter. You can see here ZBrush is reading that it has 2 by 2.82 millimeter by 2 millimeter. That means it's longer than wider, but okay, we are going to work in millimeters. And as usual, when I start creating rings as a regular finger size, not for a man or for a woman, but maybe a standard finger size, not too big and not too small. Maybe I decide to create 19 millimeter wide like this. I'm talking about this distance from left to right. This circular shape has now, is going to have 19 millimeter. So let's click on resize subtool. And now we are having a cylinder of 19 millimeters by 26.77 millimeter by 19 millimeters, right? So now we are about to start working with the proper scale, not from the default scale that ZBrush is giving us. It most of the time, or I could say not most of the time, or all the time, they are 2 millimeter cubic volume, and that means that here we're having a 2 millimeter sphere, a 2 millimeter side cube, a 2 millimeter cylinder, and so on. So but now we have changed the size, and now it has 19 millimeters. So our next step to take, let's close this. Maybe we can make this a little bit smaller. Let's double click here. Let me check your comments. Okay. Your comments here. Okay. And now next step is I'm going to turn on my floor. You can see now the y-axis is active, but it is very tiny. But I am looking for now the plane which is beside of the cylinder. It should be the z-axis, this one. And now if we go to the draw menu, again, open the left tray, zip plugin, draw, and we can change the grid size. We can make it bigger. And now we are going to attach this image to the floor or to the grid. Go in here to the front back. That means the front back means the z-axis, the up down is the y, right? Yes, the up down is the y, and the left and right is the x-axis. That's the reason why if I open this space, we're having two choices to attach two different images. Now clicking on the map one, and we already have the image loaded. No, so you need to click on import. Let me find it on my hard drive, and it is here. So now you can see here now that the image has been attached to the grid. And now if we click on adjust, we can crop the image just for selecting the portion of the image that we are interested on, like this. Maybe let's try to give a square proportions. Click on OK. And then we come back to the draw options. we will change the fill mode from 1 to 3. Now we are able to see through the geometry, and now we can start rotating the image, and now working with the scale just for putting it on the right position, just vertical. Now this is not the vertical. Let me see first what I am. This is the x-axis. The x means this is going to be the top. So I am making the things wrong, because if I decide this is going to be the top view where we are going to have the shell of the beetle, that means that the image I have selected is the wrong one. So I need to get into the image again, adjust it, and I think I need to select. Okay, I need to unload it again. Click on import again, select it again, and now adjust it again, because I need to select this one and not the side view, because the z-axis corresponds to the top view. So maybe something like this. Let's say click on OK, and now we are on the right view. So this is the top view. So I prefer, when I'm working with rings, another extra settings that I make is I turn on the three axes, and I change the elevation from -1 to 0, because all of them are crossed in the middle of the workspace. So now I know where is exactly the middle of the design, and maybe we can push it a little bit to the right, and maybe it has the right size, and maybe changing the vertical, maybe it's gonna be something like this. And now it's time to attach the right view to the side view. The side view corresponds to the y-axis. That means it's the up down. No, up down. No, maybe it's the left right. This is the top. Yeah, it's the left right. So map 1. Let's import this again here, and now clicking on adjust again, and now we can now select the portion of the image we were selecting before. It's gonna correspond to this one. Okay, now it's time. This is the top view and this is the side view. So let's flip it, let's rotate it, and let's change the scale. And let's change the I think it could be something like this. My personal settings about the frame, about the grid, are the enhance factor to its maximum volume to 1, and now enhance opacity maybe around the middle. So maybe we can make it brighter or fade it like this. Like this is gonna be enough. Okay. And maybe we can attach the third view. It's gonna be this one. That this one will go to the y-axis, to the up down. Clicking on the bump one again. Import. And now we can adjust the image again. And now we can select this view. Like this. Okay, and now Gostanza, this is going to be the front, so we need to rotate it, rotate, change the scale. Now we can change the vertical offset. It's going to be, maybe should be a little bit smaller. Yeah, something like this. It's approximate. We are not having a accurate or technical drawing when we have under control all the measurements from the drawing. You can see it's just a sketch. So the sketch is giving us just the information about the proportions and the location of the different elements of the design. So we don't have to be very worried about the precision. now, but it's gonna work. I mean, you can see here now the front view, it's a little bit bigger. We should make it smaller based from the side, and you can see it doesn't correspond it, but okay, it's more or less like this. The main view that I'm going to use is this one and this one. Okay, we can choose this, we can work on this one, but it's not going to be very important, this one, because you can see here maybe this one hasn't been made in proportionally with this, but what you can see here, this corresponds left and right to the white of the shell, but this is not exactly the same. Okay, we can start. This is going to be a good starting point. So you should get used to, when you are setting a custom grid, as I did, it's a good choice coming back to the draw menu and click on save and keep this file safe, because you're not going to, it's not going to be necessary to make all the settings again every time you launch and you start over again with this design, maybe tomorrow or the next month. So we can save this file. So ZBrush will save a cgrid file with all the images attached to the grid with the right settings, and that's it. This is going to be the starting point. So let's put this here. Okay, maybe I'm gonna put here this thing here, and let me change the mode, and I'm going to import the image on ZBrush through the texture menu. Click on import here, and now we can come back to the texture, select the image, attach it to the light box, so we can make it smaller. We can change the brightness like this. We can put it here for giving it as a good reference on the canvas. Don't forget, when you are attaching any image to the light box, you should turn this off for being able to sculpt the meshes. If not, ZBrush will not allow you to sculpt anything. So you should turn off your spotlight projection. I was referring to this tool as lightbox. I was my mistake. Sorry, this is the spotlight, not the lightbox. Okay. Perfect. Comments and questions are coming. So can I ask? Sure, you can ask whatever you need. If I sculpt an object that will be printed, I have to pay attention to the topology and polygon, as I usually do when I work on a model that will. No. Answer of for your question is no. You don't have to be so worried about the topology as when you are making an object for being animated. So when we are creating objects, as I'm doing today or on my previous streaming, I'm just worried about measurements, volumes, or distances, because we are going to send this file for being printed. So I'm worried about the measurements, the proportions, the composition, and so on. I'm not worried about the topology. Maybe, probably, I can, for example, talking about this design, we can start making a mix of different kind of topologies. When I'm saying different topologies, we can start making a mix of dynamesh, a regular polymesh, decimated mesh, and so on. Because at the end of the process, we are going to weld everything together. We are going to convert all of the subtools into one single watertight mesh, and we are going to export that mesh into a STL file ready for 3D printing. But during the sculpting process and during the design process, we don't have to be very worried about the topology, how clean the topology is, the flow of the polygons, of the loops, and so on. So maybe in sometimes, for example, when we are making a design that needs to have UV maps in terms of applying a specific texture on a surface, at that situation, maybe we can be worried about topology. But talking about models for being 3D printed, the topology is not very important. So the answer of your question is no. You don't have to pay attention to topology. You should pay attention to the poly count at the end of the process when you are about to export the final file for 3D printing. hasn't too much sense, for example, to export a file with millions of polygons, because you have to send this file from ZBrush to another software, another application, to the printer mainly, and the rule is try to send the file as lighter as possible with less polygons as possible. And where is the point when I have to decide how many polygons are the right number? Depends on the level of design that your model has. In some cases, it's a very simple model. You can decimate it to a very low value. But if your model is a very high dense detail, maybe you can keep it. But based from my experience, 500,000 is gonna be enough for everything. For everything. Remember that you go to the plugins. If you go to your 3D Print Hub plugin, yeah, no, I'm sorry, to your decimation master. Here you have your own presets, 20,000 polygons till 250,000 polygons. Maybe even you can create your custom amount of polygons. Most of the time, your model has a lot of detail. The highest preset is gonna be enough, but you want to preserve more details, so be sure that you are not going to lose details during the printing process. Maybe you can set up your custom value up to 500,000 polygons, but in my opinion, it's not going to be necessary. Keeping your model between 150,000 polygons and 150,000 polygons is going to be enough for a 3D printer, or preserve all of the details on the surface. And even more, if we are talking about jewelry, that the printed model is just the starting point to the manufacturing process. So we have the wax, the model printed in wax or resin, then you need to change to convert that resin or wax into a metal, then a polishing methods and so on. So we are going to lose a lot of detail during the manufacturing process. So for us, it's not going to be very important the amount of polygons at the end of the process. But the main rule is try to send out your files as lighter as possible, because will be better for another softwares to handle. Okay, let's keep working. If you have more questions, so go ahead. Okay, let's start with attaching the first subtool. We have the finger size. We can start opening our subtool list. Maybe we can, let's attach, let's append the sphere. The sphere, where is the sphere? It is in the middle, in the center of the workspace. If we turn on the transparency, you can see the sphere is there. We can push it out. We can make it, well, we are going to try to replicate the Beetle body. So we can put this here. Let's make a mask. Let's invert the mask, make it bigger, make it like this. Let's squeeze it. And now we can start grabbing our Move Infinity brush with the symmetry, left and right. We can start matching the drawing. And we go to we should put this in. You can see here, maybe the top view should be a little bit bigger. If I come back to the draw menu, where is this? This is the top view. No, this is the front back. Maybe it has to be bigger. Maybe something like this. Yeah, maybe something like this. Because the ending here, we are watching here, the shell ends here, but this border doesn't correspond to the shell. It corresponds to the base, because this is going to be metal. You can see here this portion here. Okay, I think we're okay like this where we are now. So when we can now, it's start splitting this into parts. But if I turn off my check how my polyframe looks like, Okay, I forgot to make something. So this subtool should be the first one. And we should change, let's start making booleans. So let's change from positive to negative and start making booleans. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just for removing this faceted surface. What I do is group by normals. Now I have a different polygroup to each mesh face. Now we have three polygroups. Let's crease the polygroups and let's turn on the dynamic subdivision. Just for getting a smoother surface on the surface. So geometry, dynamic subdivision, turn this on. So you can see here. And you can decide how far you can go. You want to go with the subdivisions. Maybe at 4 subdivision, it's going to be okay, like this. Let's start saving this file as the first step of the process. This is going to be the Beetle ring 1. Okay. You arrived a bit late, no problem. You look at size. Are you referring to the finger size? We were starting setting up the finger size at the beginning of the streaming. Yeah, just changing the size of this cylinder, just setting the proper ring size. So at any time, for example, if you want to know how thick is this, for example, you want to see it from this view, you know that using the scale master, you go to the scale master. Let's go to the C plugins, the scale master, and then I click on the scale master. This piece has 19 millimeter by 19 millimeter by, no, I'm sorry. I have selected the wrong subtool. I was reading the cylinder again. If I select the Beetle body, what I did as we just made, if I go here, it is 924 by 1231 by 9.5, 9.5 millimeter. And that means that this is the X, Y, and Z, right? X. So I think that the distance I am reading from left to right, it is 9.25 millimeter. But here the second measurement, it is 12.31. That means from the bottom to the top. But this is not correct because ZBrush is reading the distance from the bottom of the sphere till the top. But I am just interested on which is the distance that we have from the surface of the ring till the top of this piece. For testing that or for reading that, we should go to move, turn on this icon or clicking on the Y on your keyboard. So we will start working with the transpose line, and then we should put this transpose line from the bottom. Let's turn off the symmetry from the bottom till here. And now here on my top left corner, here we have the distance that we have. Now it is 0.704 millimeter. That means that we are about to create that volume of around 4.5 millimeters of thickness. So from this point, the method that we have for start taking measurements from point to point, thicknesses and so on is going to be the transpose line and reading the numbers here on our top left corner, as I just did now. But this is maybe it's too early to start taking measurements. We're just putting everything in place. I'm just worried about the shapes at this point. So the right or the important measurements will appear after some processes. We are just blocking the different forms. So at this moment, of course, the distances of the measurements are the units are important, but not so important now. So let's keep working. So the side is set on the stone, and the stone, yeah, I will set this stone size. Compare based on the design. For example, if you want to, for example, if your customer is requesting to you or needs to talk with his supplier, a stone supplier, needs to know that he is going to have the right stone size based on this design, for example. Because this stone, this is not a diamond or something. Maybe we can select a kind of a bead. Looks like a bead or something, or cabochon cut. Let's append an sphere, another one. Let's select this one and let's push it with you here. Maybe to don't be very confused, let's fill this with the red color. Let's go to draw, RGB, fill object, and let's see, this should be a little bit here. We can see here now the side view doesn't correspond to the top view. Okay, as we were saying before, it's approximated. It has to be exactly the same, but maybe probably we can come back again to the draw menu and try to make it small, bigger. It's going to be something like this. Yeah, or maybe bigger or smaller. Okay, I think it's going to be okay from this point. So if we want to know how big is this, it's as easy as coming back to the scale master. I'm sure that this is going to be a bit or so, not completely circular. It has to be something like this probably. And it is, we go to the scale master. So we are working on 2.89 millimeter. That means that we can start looking for a 3 millimeter bit, red bit or crystal, or you are looking for a ruby. It's up to you, depending on the money you have. Maybe a crystal bit is gonna be cheaper. So let's come back to the scale master again. Now change. Don't forget to turn off all, because if you change one of the two of the subtools, you will change the others according to the latest modification. So we go to 3. So start working with a 3 millimeter stone has sense in terms of composition. Based on the finger size we were setting at the beginning of the streaming, we were deciding that this is 19 millimeter from top left or left right, top bottom or left right, 19 millimeter diameter of finger size as reference rings, and that's it. But I don't make the things bigger or smaller. I'm trying to make them accordingly with the reference. But if we start thinking at the same time with real units, with real objects, we should decide that 3 millimeters is a good choice for try to find the right bead or the right stone on the market. Because if we are looking for a 2.3 millimeters exactly stone, maybe we are going to have more problems than if we are looking for a standard 3 millimeter stone, right? So we are just trying to emulate or replicate the design as more as possible, but not 100% accurate. But you want to change the scale of the objects instead of using the gizmo or making the objects smaller or bigger. Come back to the scale master and start giving them real units or real proportions. Yeah, sorry, I know about sculpting, but know about jewelry. So, yeah, no problem. This is the reason why I'm making lives about jewelry, because, or at least that's my opinion. I think that I'm making something different than the other streamers are doing, making just sculpting objects or sculpting creatures on stuff like that. So I am creating objects that needs to be manufactured and produced with real materials. Hey, feels so good. Welcome. Yes, it's summertime. You're right. Yeah, I was sculpting. But don't hesitate to ask whatever you want or whatever you need. Now, my concept is not mine. I found this concept comes from René Lalique. It's a very well-known jeweler from the 18th century. And I'm going to try to replicate or make a 3D object based from this ancient old drawings from a master like René Lalique. Of course, maybe during the process, maybe we can give to the design or own ideas. It's not going to be necessary to create an exact replica of the drawing of the concept, but this is going to be a good starting point. Okay, like this and like this and this. Okay, let's keep working. Let's start attaching more elements. For example, I'm going to start creating the band, or the is commonly the name of this part of the ring. When we are talking about, we start using jewelry names. We are talking about this element of the ring. This is the shank. This is most of the time are called the shank of the ring, or the band, or the band of the ring. So to start creating the shank, so we can use the same subtool as the finger size. So let's duplicate this, and now we can squeeze it. We can make it thin, bigger. Turn this on. So we are about to start creating the shank. Maybe now at this point it's a good moment to check how thin is this. Let's zoom in here with the transpose as we did before from left to right. Here we are creating a shank of thickness of 0.9433 millimeter. That means that the volume that we are making now has less than 1 millimeter. Okay, hasn't too much sense, so we should make it bigger. In this case, thicker, adding more thickness. Now with this distance we have here 1.3 millimeters, maybe a good number in terms of standard jewelry, depending on the kind of metal you're about to cast this, but we go till 1.5 millimeter as a starting point. It's going to be a good choice. As a starting point, I mean, because during the designing process, maybe we can make it thinner or thicker, depending on the elements we are sculpting or the kind of the detail we are putting on the surface. But as a starting point, here we are having almost 1.6 millimeter as a starting point. As I said before, has sense. Now let me show, I'm gonna see the topology. Now the topology, maybe it's gonna be a good option to start playing with the topology with the C modeler. I'm gonna get rid of all of the polygons here. So let's I'm going looking for delete H loop complete. Let's start removing. Let's turn off the dynamic symmetry like this. Let's make it thinner like this. Maybe the reference we can put it here. It should be here, more or less. It's gonna be something like this, because this is the bottom, what is happening in the bottom, because the wings are on top. But I guess reading the drawing, I'm guessing that this is the band is completely straight. You can see here, and the wings goes on top of it. So let's keep it this way at this moment. So let's start adding more elements. Maybe we can start working with this, maybe control and drag, rotating 90 degrees to start blocking the head. At this point, we are not sculpting anything. We are just It's like composing a puzzle. Like we are putting different elements together, so all of them should work as a whole thing. But at this moment, we are not very worried about the details yet. We are just worried about the composition. Okay, and then maybe what I'm gonna do is this should be here, more or less higher, and I'm going to append a new subtool, in this case a new cylinder. What's rotating 90 degrees, pushing up. Let's make it bigger, make it smaller. I'm about to create this shape. What you are watching here is like this shape. It should go probably having this shape, something like this. It's like a bed where the beetle is laying on top, and this is the reason why I started from a cylinder. I'm gonna change the shape from this shape to this shape, just tapering a little bit the upper part of the cylinder, just for getting this shape. So watching it from the top, let's squeeze it, push it this way with symmetry. It should go, it is now completely symmetrical, but more or less symmetrical. Maybe something like this. It should be more or less something like this. I think it needs to be thicker. At this point, maybe the important thing is going to be how thick is this distance. We don't know this measurement, but if we are start thinking about real objects, let me check how thick is this now from top to bottom. Now we are having a 1.6 millimeter, less than 2 millimeter. Maybe it's very small. Maybe it's gonna be necessary to push this up a little bit till getting around 2.2 millimeter. Maybe we can make it thicker. Maybe 3 millimeters as a starting point. All of you, if you are currently watching my streamings, I am having the caliper on my hand when I am designing and sculpting, just for taking real measurements. Because when you are reading 3 millimeters, your brain is trying to figure out what does 3 millimeter means. But I prefer to watch it in reality, just for checking that I am making things bigger or smaller enough. If we are having 3 millimeter, I think it's gonna be okay. So you can see we went from 1.2, 1.5 to 3 millimeter. Maybe 3 millimeter looks a little bit thick, but probably not. Let's see what happens. So let's make the tapering. Get into the wheel. Let's click on taper. You know, you should bring the cone here to here, instead of having this cone extended like this. So we're gonna start having this and start changing the angle like this, and now something like this, just for having the right the right inclination like this. And maybe we can now select the what I did. Oh, okay. The problem with this is because I was making a transformation having the symmetry active. Let's undo this. Let's turn this off, send to the center, and let's repeat it again. Taper. Bring the gun here. So let's change this. Let's change this. Let's go in here. And now we can now select the bend arc. Like this. There is going to be the minimum. I think, okay. Maybe the taper is too much. Let's change the angle. Yeah, maybe more something like this. Okay, so let's turn off on the symmetry again, and then we can start changing the shapes. And now we can create the same thing as before, groups by normals. Oops, I have two different groups. I need to group these two faces as one single polygroup. And now we can only one polygroup, make a mask, invert the mask, and now we can push this to here, making it something like this as a starting point. Okay, and then we should push up a little bit. Let's cut up here, and now we have two choices. We can change the base. We can see from the top. We should change it and change also the shape of this cut up. Maybe it's gonna be a good moment to start changing the topology, because I am trying to, you can see here the problem I am having as the portion of this mess, the polygons are so long, I'm not able to bend here. So it's time to go to the ZBrush measure, tells to the ZBrush measure that I'm looking for a new mesh with the same amount of polygons. Keep the groups. Okay, now the groups, they are not very important, but keep the groups anyway, and don't smooth any groups. And give me quads, as more quads as possible, like this. And now we can change the shape more like something like this. Let's polish it. Okay, let me save this. Okay, let me see, no comments. Okay, no more comments, so let's keep working. Let's start adding, okay, we can change, we can see, make the same thing here, crease polygroups. I was having something like this, crease polygroups, and get into dynamic subdivision. That's for watching the things smoother. And maybe the head is gonna be more something like this. Let's see what happens here, because I'm not sure. Let me check the concept. Okay, maybe the base, maybe this is gonna be more something like this. Okay, let's start creating the legs. Let's append, okay, instead of append anything, just for using different brushes or different ways for creating the same thing, I'm gonna use the clay curve tube option. Arms start from here to here. Now I have two arms, split mass points. It is not going to be necessary to work now with dynamic subdivision like this. This it should be somewhere here, but because the legs they are going to be cast in metal, and we can start giving the right shape because the legs are holding the stone. Something like this. We can turn on our back face for changing the shape, making it some. Let's make it thicker. You want to know how thick is this, because it's gonna be very thin. We are having here a thickness of 1.5 millimeter. Okay, it's good enough, because if we add it a little bit more, gonna be better. The tips are 1.2 millimeter. Okay, it's gonna be okay. Maybe they are very close to the finger. We should push this up. This. So let's see, remeasure with the same. Let's with double. Okay, so good the starting point. Let's attach now cylinder to start creating. Okay, instead of a cylinder, let's make something different. Let's append a ring 3D. So we are about to create the stone setting, or the piece of metal which is going to hold the stone. So it's gonna be something like this. In the middle, something like this. If you want to know how thick is this, we can start taking measurement with a transpose line, but as this case is going to be more accurate if we are using the scale master. Now we have a wire of 0.6 millimeter thickness. This is very small, very thin. So let's change from 0.6 to 0.8. Let's turn off the R, because I only want to change this size and not this size. So let's change from 0.6 to 0.8. This is 0.8. Okay, from this view, it is still 0.6, but now it has more strength here, this way. Maybe we can make it something like this. It has to be here, so the stone, it's gonna be something around here. Okay, so now it's time to start adding the prongs, because this was the drawing gave me this idea. You can see here. Let's make this thing bigger. Here you're watching a prong. It's not, probably is not a prong. Here you can hear a little dot. Maybe we can make this like a prong. It's not a prong, because the prong needs to be a little bit longer, but maybe it's gonna be cool if we add prongs instead of another way of set the stone. So for making the prongs, what we can do is we can send this object to the center of the workspace. Clicking this button, you will find this button here under the transform menu, if I am correct. Yes, S spider point. You can see, you click it here. ZBrush will send the object to the center of the workspace, 0, 0, 0, X, Y, and Z. And now what I'm going to do is I will hide the others and we'll append where are you here? New cylinder. Let's rotate it 90 degrees and let's make it at 0.8 millimeter big. Now it is 2 millimeters thick. Let's make it let's try with R. In this case, it's going to be important to keep this button active. 0.8. Let's read it again. 0.8. Like this. And now we can make it bigger. And now we can change a little bit the angle. Let's make it there like this. Now we are sure that we are making a 0.8 millimeter wire portion of metal. And now it's time to go to the ray mesh. Ray mesh, lock the position, reset the pivot point, and let us start rotating this single prong with the Z. Yeah, 360 degrees. And we are about to create a 4 prongs stone setting like this. And now maybe it's gonna be, this is the original. With a clip curve, we can clip the bottom, making something like this. Okay, before I do that, maybe I'm going to group by normal first. We can pop, make something like this. And maybe we can control tap on this and make it a little bit more rounded finishing like this. And it comes in here. My understanding is you 3D print this with a heat resistance resin and send it to someone that works metal. In Robin Jesus, what I normally do is I send to my 3D printer supplier, which has a 3D printer that uses wax for as a master material. So the printer is like a injects with injection, with the system of injection, start slicing the model into many different layers. It's around 0.16 millimeter thickness, and then the machine starts making the different layers with wax. And once you have the master made with wax, we just send it to a foundry, a jewelry foundry, to transform the wax model into the metal model. And then at that point, the process starts from the raw metal piece till the polishing, different polishing methods, stone setting, enameling, and so on, till getting the final jewelry piece. But I'm using, the conclusion is that you can use printers which uses wax instead of plastic or resin for print your jewelry models. Oh, I guess you can just 3D print it as I use it. No, when we are talking about jewelry, we are talking about metals. Most of the time, silver, maybe brass, gold, in few cases, because now today the gold is very expensive. But for example, here, when we are talking about colors, we're gonna create this process during the streamings. Let me show you here the references we had here. For example, here, when we are talking about colors, this is the Enamel. It's like you are creating different boxes or different spaces, and then you are putting a little drops of different Enamel transparent or clear enamel with a specific color, which covers that box. That means that we are applying different colors in different spaces like this. We are talking about traditional high-end jewelry. When we are talking about jewelry, we never talk about paintings. Most of the time we talk about the stones or enamel. Peter, Nacho, are you using dynamics of the? Yes, I am using dynamics of division for the ring. That's the reason why it looks so smooth. No, the topology is not a mess because, well, when you are creating a boolean from different objects based from different topologies and so on, the result is a mess because the result is composed by different portions of different meshes or different topologies. But depending on what you are looking for, you can series measure based on different polygroups, and you can retopologize it manually, depending on, because in my case, what I do is the final product is going to be an STL file that which it needs to be printed. I'm not worried about the topology. I'm just worried about how clean the surface is, if I had made the detail properly. I don't care about the topology. Hey, Conejo Negro, muchas gracias. Muchas gracias y bienvenido. Casey Forster, thank you for sharing that. You are welcome. Just you have more comments or question about what I'm doing, just you can ask. Maybe the prongs are a little bit short. Let's make it longer. And that's it. And we can push this. Or maybe we can, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna change the shape of this. Let's, I think it's gonna be better if we make it, give it even more strength to this. And let's change, let's fit this to the bottom. Like this is going to be enough. Okay, we can change now the topology. Now we can go to our series measure. Give me the double, keep the groups, don't apply any smoothing to the groups. The adapted size change from 50 to 0 just because I'm looking for as more quads, as regular quads as possible. Let me give me a new mesh. Okay, now it looks better. And it's going to be enough. So we are done here. And now we can now send it to its original place, which is here. Oops. Okay, I forgot to because when you are using the ray mask, you are working under the ray mask settings. We are just using one mask, and you are replicating the mask using radon symmetry and so on. So when you are done, you need to click on make mask, and now it's done. And now we can mix, we can merge this one, merge down, and now we have the seat of the stone. Let me turn off the transparency just for, or let's put it more closely to its center. So it's going to be okay, something like this. Okay, after once the piece is finished, what the stone setter does is cutting the unnecessary metal. They bend the prongs against the stone just for holding the stone, and remove the unnecessary metal just for leaving it as smaller as possible. You can see here how tiny the little prong is here. Maybe it's not going to be so tiny, but we are talking about piece that should be manufactured it's better to leave these prongs a little bit longer, because after one casted, the stone setter is going to cut the metal and push the prongs against the stone, just for making a safe stone setting. Let's turn on the others. And this is what we got so far. Like this. MEL, what do you mean with MEL? Is it glass or some kind of oxide or acid? What is it? What do you mean? I don't know what you mean with the NML. And Enamel. Enamel. I'm sorry for my English, but this I'm talking about Enamel. You can make a searching on Google, because it's a very well-known jewelry technique, and it is not only related to jewelry. It's like what, how can I describe it? It's like like a glass when you are, it's like a powder of different compositions when you are mixing it with a liquid, and then you are getting like a painting that it is not solid, it is almost translucent or transparent, and you are putting that painting on inside of the different gaps that you leave on the metal, and then you put it on the oven, and it dries, and it's like a cover the surfaces with crystal enamel. You can see, let me make a searching for you. If you go to Google here and you post enamel, you will read here, maybe here you can see here the process. On what is the process? When you can see here, I'm sure that you have already seen this on. You can see here how the enamel has been applied to the. But for that you need spaces to content these paintings, and you are just putting little drops of different colors, and just for make this solid, they should be dried in an oven. You can see here that the different pigments or colors. You mix it with specific liquids or products, and then you and once the surface has been dried on an oven, it can be peeled with a file or sanded or polished till getting a shiny colored surface like this. This is the enamel. Here you can use a kind of clear enamel with pigments, but also you can use a very different color. For example, if you go to Pinterest, this is the place where I go most of the time for searching for inspiration. Where am I? Here. Remove. You can see here, this is the enamel. All the color has been made with the enamel technique, this with the different feathers. You can see there are like small boxes or small gaps or spaces where you put the enamel or the paint inside. It is not real paint, it's like more crystal. You can see here enamel. You will read. You can see this is a good option. This is a good example when you are creating the gaps just for putting the enamel inside. You can see here it's the same thing here. So that's the reason why what you are having is a color surrounded by a little thin frame of metal surrounding the different spaces, the different gaps. The Art it's very well known, but with this kind of enamel application, you can see here where also you can make different gradients or different mix of different colors. But you are looking for Art Nouveau enamel jewelry. Or also another kind of it has the René Lalique is the artist from the same person who made this drawing. Is a very well known jewelry master from the Art Nouveau century. You can see here where you can put enamel between the gaps where the gap hasn't a base. It's like making a window where you are just having the frames of the window and you're just putting just filling or putting the enamel inside of the different gaps till getting this kind of translucence or window effect. This is very well known, or something like this. Applique-jour, it's the name in French. Sorry for my French. If you can see here the same technique here with the base and without the base, like working up a window. It's a very well known piece from this artist with different colors. This is the same thing here. Enamel. This is an ancient technique. Okay, let's go. Let me check your comment. A lot of artist friends make keychains and pins with enamel. Yes. I love to use enamel on my designs or watching designs made with enamel because the possibilities that you have with the color are endless. It takes a lot of time and it is not easy to find the right person to apply or to make your enamel compositions, because it's not easy to find workers or jewelers who are proficient with enamel technique, but at the end it works. I want to ask about 2D concept sketch and software you are using for it. Please advise how much important it is to learn sketching as a ZBrush jewelry designer. Thank you. HJ Sa, I was using this concept from Lalique. I didn't make it. In my opinion, the power of ZBrush, maybe you can go directly sketching in 3D instead of starting from a drawing or from a 2D concept. You can start concepting or start sculpting or creating your design directly with ZBrush, like I am making today, just putting different objects together and checking how they works, everything as a one single object. And in my opinion, it's not necessary to know to draw today with the powered 3D tools that we have. Even more if you are a ZBrush user, as I was saying, you can start sketching with 3D objects instead of start making drawings. Sides are hiding. How much should be the thickness of walls for using enamel? For example, if you are using here, you are talking about this. Let me make this bigger. I'm going to paint here. For example, here I have in the space. Not that thick. Is this way? Is this way? More or less. This is the enamel. In this case, it's a black enamel with a faded with another color. If you are looking for creating the frames which are surrounding this, like this, if we are watching here from the side, it's like we are watching this. Where the blue color is this view. So this is this thickness. Okay, depend. Here we have two different worlds. For example, we are working with a 3D tool as we are currently doing, like ZBrush. So we are about to create a digital object. We are going to, that object is going to be necessary for being 3D printed with different way. Today we have many different kind of technologies about 3D printers. In my opinion, if we are talking about jewelry, the most accurate are the wax printers. There are not so many, maybe as far as I know, maybe 3 or 4 brands which are manufacturing printers, which are able to use the wax as the main material. So we are going to be able to create a very accurate and very small things. But after, once we have the casted piece in metal, they need to be sanded, filled, grinded, handled in many different ways till getting the final results. If we are talking about the final distances, because you are walking about a thickness, maybe here we are saying trying to get maybe half of a millimeter here or even less. You can go far. Maybe we are talking about digital objects. Maybe we are going to have some problems if we go farther than 0.6 millimeter. I'm talking about the initial starting point before I start polishing the object, right? After, once we have the metal, if we go, we are having here 0.6. After, with the manual tool, we can start grinding this and removing material till getting probably 0.4. The objective is to make it as thinner as possible, but for getting a 0.4 thickness of the frame here, I'm talking about this distance, it's a better idea for giving it 0.6 or even more if we can, because we are going to have the final touches or the final thickness during the manual processes. At the end, the jewelry, it's a mix of, even today that we're having a lot of 3D tools like ZBrush and any other softwares and 3D printers, not a lot of technologies. At the end, the product is going to be a mix of manual processes and digital processes, and they should be combined in talking about the whole process. So it's conclusion. It's difficult to give you one answer, one single number, depending on the kind of design that you are manufacturing. But probably the objective of this thickness is going to be around less than half of a millimeter, just for trying to keep this as thin as possible. But your 3D file is going to have more than half of a millimeter. Maybe it's 0.6 or 0.7, or maybe 0.8 is going to be too thick. Let's see when we go further with this design how far we can go with the thickness, because the final thicknesses are going to be get during the manual processes. But if you are talking about the depth here, this here, yes, 0.6 millimeter. We are talking about Enamel. Okay, the same concept as before. We are looking for 0.6 millimeter as final gap for start putting the enamel inside. It's much better to give 0.7 or 0.8 to the digital file for getting this 0.6 millimeter at the end of the process after the manual processes. Okay, it's very difficult. We will talk about jewelry. This is one of the most challenging things about jewelry, is that we are using a very small amount of material or our measurements. Sometimes we are learning during the errors we are making during the making different designs, and we start learning our own numbers or known our own distances or thicknesses and so on. The tall of the walls, so 0.6 millimeter, or maybe the thickness of the walls around 0.5 millimeters or less if possible. Raven Jesus, which words do you use to search for concepts? I also always use Pinterest for searching concepts. As far based on my experience, Pinterest has a very good algorithm when you are searching something specific. we are talking about jewelry or about any other kind of thing. I don't know if you are looking for, you are using it Pinterest as I'm using, but I recommend to you to change your. I always go to Pinterest for making searchings about jewelry, like this, for example, this, and you start getting many different images. So you're gonna start jumping from one to the to other till getting a lot of inspiration from only one place. This is the one of the I think this is one of my favorite social media. If we can call this a social media or websites, Pinterest. When we are searching, making a lot of searchings about jewelry, you can see here all of the concepts I'm getting. Okay, let's keep working. But one of the things that I have been learning working for jewelers as clients, it's that there aren't um, general concepts when we are talking about jewelry. I mean, that depending on the jeweler you are talking with, it sometimes they have one concepts, and all the time they have a completely different ideas or completely different processes or concepts. And even more, if we start talking about stones and stone setting, we are start getting a lot of different point of view or ways to understand or interpret the processes. I think it's hard to learn. It's very hard to learn, I think. Okay, I think it looks like our Beetle start looking for good enough. Because I was making the same question as you did, trying to find the right numbers, just for knowing that the things that I was doing, they were being making properly. But depending on the person you are asking, some of them are giving to me one information, another one are giving to me a completely different information. So I'm just trying to learn as more as I can from different professionals or from different jewelers. But it's very difficult to find general or general concept or general answers. Let's subdivide this. Let's start changing the profile of this. Okay, at this point, this is not very important, but okay, let's keep working on another completely different thing. I have seen here, maybe this is cool for having this kind of cut here at the bottom. Let's see what we can do here. Maybe if I add a new like this, let's, and now we can I'm going to remove this delete. I don't used to work a lot with the C modeler because I consider more myself as a sculptor instead of 3D modeler, because I started using ZBrush as a sculptor. So the concepts or the basics or the knowledge I'm using when I am using working with ZBrush are more based from sculpting rules. That's the reason why I'm not very good at these ways, more traditional 3D ways of working like C modeler. But but the C modeler, it's a very powerful tool for creating shapes and so on, but I'm not very good at the C modeler. I'm trying something that I'm not sure that's going to be possible. Let's delete now the PolyGroup like this. Now we can I mean that I'm not a traditional 3D artist, as I come from the traditional 3D sculpting or manual sculpting. That is why I used to make things manually or not with a very canonic way of working when we are talking about 3D, as I am doing today, not right now. It's just pushing polygons. Let's see. I'm looking for to change the angle. Okay. But in some cases, when you are looking for clean shapes, the C modeler or working with polygons, it's very useful. Maybe you can. Let's see what happens if we click on close holes. You can see we are not getting the thing that we want to. What we can is we have an option here where we can make a bridge between two sides. Let's create a bridge between you and you. Okay, and now we can split this. Where are you? Split. And now we can put this vertex here. Or the move topology better. And maybe we can weld points and close holes now. Okay, then it's going to be enough. Now we can go into modify topology. Where am I here? Modify topology, weld distance, weld point. Okay, the mesh is closed. Now we can, as a starting point, maybe we can create this. And maybe this. At some point, it's going to be necessary to make a new topology, right? With the series measure. Now it looks very ugly, but we can. Maybe it's going to be enough like this at the moment. Let's see what happens if I try to. I'm gonna create a crease here. Creased, each loop, crease, each loop complete. Let me subdivide it. And now the new series measure with the same. Well, then it should work. Yeah, I think it's good enough at the moment. Okay. Okay, let's leave it as it is. So don't be here wasting too much time with this, but we are getting the idea. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me maybe can try to isolate this face. Oop. No. Just pushing this here. Something like this. They can create a new mesh. Okay, it's gonna be enough. Which word do you use for a concept? Victor, what's your approach for making a signet ring with an octagonal top and bevel sides? Let me save this first. When we are talking about hard surface, or maybe we can call this traditional jewelry, when you answer that, what's my approach for making a signet ring with an octagonal top and beveled sides? And when this is the first thing that comes to my mind was start from a cube 3D. Before making a polymesh, go down till the initialize option and change the side counts from 4 to 8. Right, so we have an octagon with 8 sides, right? Okay, with an octagonal sides. Okay, this is the topology that we have. Maybe it's gonna be better if we apply more subdivision here or more density to the mesh, or no. Let's see. Now let's make it simple. We'll put 3 by 3. Okay, something like this. It's gonna be better to keep it simple now. Now we have an octagon shape with very simple mesh. Now once we are done with the initialize settings, we can now go to the make polymesh 3D. Now let me grab this cylinder we have here, which has the right finger size measurements. We can go here and we can append to the cylinder. Okay, now it's time to make the octagon bigger. So let's rotate it 90 degrees, make it bigger. At this point, you should decide how big you need it. Okay, it needs to be at least something like this, right? It's going to have a big head, or maybe something like this. Yeah, something like this. This one should be negative, and this is going to be our starting point. We should put this here at the bottom. This is a very strange design that could be. I don't know how to call this, but so we can now we can grab this option, this vertex, invert the mass, and we can make it thinner. Or maybe we can push it to the top, depending on how far you can go. You can, depending on the shape you are looking for. You are looking for something like this, right? Because I'm not sure. Maybe I should have, in this case, maybe it needs to be, okay. So now maybe we can use the taper. Let's send it to the center. Let's go to the taper and let's put it here. Let's make it a taper a little bit smaller, like this. Now we are going to have something more from this shape to this shape. Now it is straight, and it's gonna be better to have something more like this, right? I'm improvising, right? So don't judge me too hard. Let's insert what ZBrush is done. Cannot delete. Okay, I'm looking forward to insert. Okay, now I can insert one, and now we can grab this and we can make it thinner, thicker this way, a little bit more. Chill here. Okay, and then let's insert one more here. Keep in mind that we are just blocking the shape, right? And now we can change the symmetry. We have the symmetry in this view, but if we add one more points of control, we have 4 points. So we are going to be able to start changing the different vertices. like this. Maybe we can, whoop. Just for getting something with sense. Okay, something like this. Maybe we grab this. We can push this with no, just here, this one. And now this is the octagonal shape. Maybe we can make the head a little bit smaller. More like this, and maybe this thinner. No, maybe like this. Watching from the sides. This is the I was saying the maybe the power of the sense of working with a very low amount of polygons where you are just controlling vertices and points, therefore giving a flat surfaces or hard surface looking surfaces like this. And now when you're happy with the with the with the with the results, it's time to start splitting this into different polygroups. At first point, we can make a polygroup here. You can see using the C modeler with the Alt key, you can start painting, applying a different polygroup. You can isolate this, Control W, we have one polygroup here. And now we are about to grab this portion here. And we can tell to ZBrush groups by normals, but not, if you go to the polygroup section, you have this button here. Where are you? Groups by normals, and you have here your maximum angle. If you click the bottom by default, ZBrush is giving to me just two polygroups, the top polygroup and the frame polygroup, or the surrounded, I don't know how to call this, but you can see the red and the blue. But if you decrease this number, you go from 45 to 25, for example, polygroup, you will get one single polygroup for each facet, right? And this is gonna be good for the thing that we are looking for. Okay, so then next step. I think it's going to be necessary to isolate this, and I'm going to grab this without symmetry, Control W, and we have a different polygroup, right? And now we can crease polygroups. So we have a creased line between the border of each polygroup. Now if we turn on our dynamic subdivision, it will look, well, the magic will happen. Okay, I think it's gonna be necessary to apply one more polygroup here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Creep and dynamic subdivisions. And this is what we get. I don't know if it's the thing that you were looking for. If we turn on again our symmetry, we can make the bottom of the shank, we can change the size of the shank, or adjusting the, maybe here. This, maybe we are having here, it should be something like this. Okay, and this is what you have. For example, you want, for example, this option closer to the border like this. You will get this, and you want to make it longer on the top, you can, for example, or for example, you want to get rid of no, I think it's not going to be the transition. I was looking for a soft transition between this face and this face, but hasn't too much sense, I think. Okay, yeah, you can do it. You can do it. For example, just start it again, so we can apply one. From this point, it's just playing around with different polygroups. We can let's Control W and start with a new increased everything. We can group by normals, but not this way. We can start creating our polygroup here, and now we can start creating one polygroup here without symmetry, another polygroup here, and third polygroup here, and one more here. This now creased polygroups, and let's see how it looks like. We get into the, okay, this is what we have, more or less with more soft transition. We are having here a kind of an issue here at the bottom. What we can do here, maybe we can get, yeah, something like this. And this is now, from this point, it's just time of, that's with a click curve. That's for making the bottom a little bit more flat. And now you can, with your symmetry, with move brush, you can start adjusting. And for example, you want to make it this wider or smaller, something like this, or like this, or like that. Okay, you can have many different options from this point. But the option is start with your geometrical shape with a cylinder in the middle just for making the hole, and then start playing around with the C modeler with the different sides and the different vertices still matching. And once you have the forms, just for blocking the sides or the corners, start making different polygroups, creased polygroups, and then you can start subdividing, and that's it. Megan Rain, so you want to do this besides what's in your amazing streaming? What should I do? Give me portfolio to the yeah, maybe instead of give your portfolio to your local jewelry, maybe it would be better to start posting on Instagram, Facebook, and try to looking for the right hashtags in your post using Instagram, or for example, start looking for the right groups and you are using Facebook, for example, just for reaching the proper people, the joyeros. So don't just be posting your work, your jewelry stuff everywhere. Just be as more local as possible with the right hashtags with Instagram and on the right groups in Facebook, for example. And I'm sure that if your work is interesting, many people are going to start to contacting you. Or for example, if you are using LinkedIn, the same thing. Just start posting your jobs on the proper places. Groups related to jewelry, related to jewelry design, jewelry art, whatever. Or stay focused on your what is your theme. Just be there posting job without any sense. That's my advice. Please comment on career work growth. As a ZBrush jewelry artist from Finalizing to market your own jewelry brand. Yeah, that's the same concept. So to start making your own stuff. try to being as more critical as possible with you. Try to start making a social net of jewelry professionals, because it's very important to ask to someone if you have been doing things properly, or to start getting good critics. It's the only chance that you have to start growing as an artist and as a professional, to start receiving critics and good critics. And once you start feeling confidence, start posting your jobs on social media on the right places. Maybe just making a simplify answering. Maybe that's the idea. I have a knowledge of modeling and sculpting. But how can I go into jewelry industry uh, with the same knowledge that you have? Is just to start learning from jewelers or from people who are making jewelry, to start transforming or start orientating what your knowledge to one specific field. At the end, everything, the base of everything, it's common to most of the jobs that we can do with ZBrush, with any other 3D software. It's just we are making things with sense, in terms of, if you are making something, if you are not sure that it is properly done or not, just trying to find the right context to ask. If we are talking about jewelry, try to find jewelers or things who are designing jewelry, or make them private messages, or try, for example, when you are posting things on Instagram, post your job is with a questions. I made this. Do you think this is correct? What do you think? How can I improve it, or stuff like this? Just for start creating your social net around you, who is gonna give you the necessary feedback to start growing in the jewelry business. I think so. You need friends. That's the conclusion. Very clear. Thank you. I will. Thank to you, Joao. For the class with anything. Thank you. You are welcome. Glad you are having useful for you. Gotta be really good at what you do to stand out. Yeah, I'm agree with you, Casey. But the feeling that we have today, with so huge showcase, and we are talking about the internet, in some cases you don't have to be that so good. Maybe, I think, in my opinion, making things right today is gonna be enough, because probably some people, based from my experience, people were looking for, um, how to say, talent instead of really knowledge, because some some guy, or for some professional, is hire you for creating something specific. He is going to be your trainer in terms of, it's not necessary to start making a job with the full knowledge about everything. So if you have a talent, if you are making interesting things, the next step, someone can contact you just for making some specific thing for him. And at the same time, you are putting your talent to your client. You can be learning at the same time. We are talking about jewelry, or when we are talking about making cars or whatever. I don't know. That's my opinion, and based from my experience, because I started making jewelry without any knowledge about jewelry. I was making a completely different thing. But for someone thought that I was interesting in terms of talent for start making jewelry, but then I found the jewelry business very interesting, and very motivating for start creating my own stuff, and start searching, making a bigger cycle of friends or jewelry contacts and so on, to start learning as more and more as possible, just being able to start growing as a professional, and as an artist as well. But you can learn from the people, and even more today, when we are today here, all of us here watching and streaming about jewelry. The knowledge that I have about jewelry comes from my clients, and I don't care about sharing my knowledge with you. So this is the right place to start thinking about making jewelry designs, and it is the right place for making questions. And or maybe you can reach me. You can read here on my. Okay, I can put it here. you here at the bottom of my ugly face here, here, you can contact me if you are using my link tree. If you go to my link tree, I will put it on the chat to all of you. Control C, control it. There you go. So you can find me on my website, through my Arstation, my YouTube channel, my Instagram. So I can be your reference if you have any comments or any questions or any doubt about creating a specific jewelry design or something. So I said, I don't care if you are reaching me just for asking whatever you need. So this is the right place. That's the reason why ZBrush and Maxon on ZBrush is making this open platform just for learning and sharing knowledge. You gotta be really good at what you do now. Do you only do jewelry or other kind? I maybe today I can say the stuff that I am doing is all the stuff is related to sculpting. I think if we are talking about jewelry, we are talking about organical jewelry. That means that the jewelry is composed by a sculptural piece. Doesn't matter it's human anatomy or animal anatomy, flowers, elements which comes from nature. But maybe I can say now today 70% of the commission that I am doing are related to jewelry, but another kind of commissions comes from complete different things, statues, coins, numismatic for reliefs, for stuff for church, for religious stuff, for being produced with wood, stone. So that's the best thing about ZBrush. You can make a lot of different sculptural. You can cover a lot of sculptural jobs. But today I can say 70% of the stuff that I'm doing is related to jewelry. Organical jewelry, of course, because I don't make any kind of traditional standard jewelry like wedding bands and stuff like that, because it's starting from I haven't got the necessary knowledge about that. Okay, I'm start thinking about the wings, but before I start working on the wings, let me read the latest comments you did. Be Self is asking in Spanish, cuando publicas tus trabajos, ¿son trabajos tuyos personales o de clientes? Hay clientes que son celosos con sus modelos. I'm sorry, I'm gonna ask to Be Self in Spanish. Todo lo que publico es personal, nadie me deja publicar trabajo personal. Bueno, nunca se puede decir nadie, no es el 100%, pero podemos decir que el 95%, el 90% de los casos, todo de lo que hago, y más si estamos hablando de joyería, no puedo publicarlo. Así que tienes toda la razón, es lo habitual. She was asking if when I'm making public my jobs, are they my own jobs, or I'm able to make public the job that I receive or the commission that I receive from my clients? And I was answering that I'm not allowed, or most of the time, we can say 90% of the time or 95% of the time, I'm not allowed to post or to make public the job that I do for brands or for private commissions. That's the sad thing about working for the jewelry industry, because most of the time, or even always, I'm not able to make them public. That's the reason why I try to make my own personal works, just for being able to publish or make them public or to post them on the internet. So because I don't care about what other people say. But sadly today, not many people or not many brands or commissions are permitted for being posted under your name. Hey Casey, you're welcome. Advantages of being trilingual? I'm not trilingual, really. Are you serious? I'm just trying to speak in English, because I know that my English is very broken, but I don't care. So I just trying to put words together, and I think maybe I can say that I could be good at transfer my ideas or my knowledge, but I know that I'm not speaking a proper English. So answering your questions, advantages for me, I haven't found any advantage about being trilingual or bilingual. Yeah, if you are understanding what I'm saying in Spanish, it's because you are Spanish. Yeah, I can figure out that you come from Spain. NDA, Casey. Yeah, NDA is very common in the jewelry industry, but it's curious because when we are talking about we are not allowed to publish the works that we are doing for others. It is not very often to find clients who are requesting to you to sign an NDA before start working. So they normally they told you at the end of the process, at the end when the job is done, please don't make this public under your name. But because you assume or you know that this is gonna happen. But NDA comes more from advertising, maybe for video games or maybe for films industry and other industries. Maybe from jewelry is not very common, but I have signed some NDAs agreements before for that. But it's more a spoke agreement instead of not written agreement instead of NDA formal formats. My English is perfectly fine. Thank you very much, Casey. I'm trying to improve my English every time, but I know that most of the time I'm just throwing words without any sense most of the time, or at least my brain is telling to me you are speaking badly. But okay, and I'm good enough for send my message. Which software do you use for rendering? I'm currently, most of the time, I always, okay, so being honest, I always use Keyshot. Keyshot for rendering, I only use Keyshot and ZBrush, or the traditional BBR the Keyshot option. Okay, let's start thinking on the wings. So because we only have 2 minutes or maybe 5 minutes for wrapping up. So maybe it's not going to be a good idea starting with the wings. Maybe the next month we will continue working on this design. So next month we will start working on the wings. But the main idea about the wings, I'm gonna make it like straight. And once we have the design completely straight with the necessary gap for each single feather, I will bend it and adapt it to the ring size. This is the first idea that I have now. But probably is not going to be the right one, but I will try that as first try. I read your English is neat, can understand everything. Perfect. So good enough. As I was saying, that's it. I don't pretend to speak better. Tatiana Sevilla, ¿por qué crees que para esto, como entonces muestras trabajo solo lo que haces aparte? No entiendo del todo lo que quieres decir, Tatiana. ¿Por qué crees que pasa esto? Sinceramente no lo he entendido. Con todos los años que llevo dedicándome y trabajando para joyas, sigo sin entenderlo. No lo entiendo. No lo entiendo. ¿Y cómo muestro mi trabajo? Pues hay personas que te dejan publicar lo que haces para ellos, muy pocas, es verdad. Y la forma de mostrar mi trabajo es haciendo mi propio diseño, mi propio trabajo. Esa es la única forma. So not NDS, but more so proper etiquette. What do you mean? I don't understand what you mean. What you want to say. So not NDA, but more no proper. What do you mean, Casey, about the proper etiquette? When you are saying etiquette, are you referring to label or? Honestly, this is the best thing that I like about the streamings is talking with you. I don't care about being here working because I always try to go as far as possible with the design to start explaining as more as possible different processes and ways of working. But being honest, the best part for me for the streaming is talking with you, just discussing about jewelry, about another other things. This is the progress we made during 2 hours is not not a lot, but we have been talking about many not but we have been talking about many different themes. This is the thing that I love to be here streaming. Claro, a ti también te ha pasado, es lo habitual, es lo habitual, es lo común. En la joyería es como muy hermético, o sea, la gente busca gente que te haga cosas, pero cuando se venden las cosas, ellos lo venden bajo su nombre o bajo que ellos lo han hecho ellos. No quieren exponer que otra persona ha hecho ese diseño para que otras personas, otros competidores, puedan llegar a ti y puedan hacerle competencia. Esa es una de las conclusiones que he llegado. Pero no tiene mucho sentido, pero es que nada tiene sentido. Tip click, ¿cómo puedo encontrar buenos y confiables manufacturers? Es complicado. Es complicado. Es complicado. Es probar, hay que probar. Porque en joyería es complicado encontrar buenos fabricantes y buenos profesionales. Es complicado. La única forma de encontrarlos es probar varios. Probar y encontrar. Es la única forma. I'm sorry for being talking in Spanish for all of you who don't understand Spanish. We are still talking about why are not we allowed to post or to make public the work that we are doing for others. I was saying that I'm still don't understanding after being working for the jewelry industry for more than 10 years but it's the normal way of working. I don't know if any of you have experience about any other businesses. It normally happens the same or not. But when we talk about the jewelry industry, many people are hiring you, are finding you for sculpting something, but at the end of the process, they don't allow you to say that you have been making this or that for that brand because you are not saying that you have been designing that for. You didn't design it. You have been working for someone, so you are just posting the name of the brand. But for any reason, they don't want that they have been hiring people outside of the brand or outside of the company. I don't know. I'm still don't understand. I am a HJ. I'm using an Wacom into you say graphic monitor Wacom. Today I can say that I prefer a graphic monitor instead of a tablet, an on-table tablet, because I feel more confidence when you have the feeling that you are touching, of course, you are touching the object on the screen. It's like the connection that you have between your eye and your hand. The link is, in my opinion, is stronger that you when you are moving your hand and you are putting your eyes in different places. It's like you are connecting both together when you are using a monitor. It's like painting with a real pen or with a real brush. The feeling that you are having even more when we are sculpting or drawing, maybe it's not going to be so important that you are using a CAD software with your mouse. Well, the mouse is not going to be a big issue, but when you are drawing or sculpting, when you're having the feeling that you are touching the object on the screen, the digital object, of course, I think the strength of the connection between the hand and the eye. It's better working with a monitor instead of a tablet, in my opinion. You need to spend more money, of course, but maybe you are thinking about start making professional jobs. Maybe it's gonna be the first step to take to start switching from a tablet to a monitor. I'm working on a Wacom Cintiq 22 inches. This is the old model. It has 10 years. 22 inches is a good size for a monitor. Maybe bigger, it's gonna be too much, in my opinion. Okay, we are done for today. I'm sorry because I didn't make too much progress on this design, but next month, I used to make one streaming once a month at the middle of the month. So in August, I will try to be here again, making more progress on this design. So maybe fixing. I will try to fix some mistakes that I made before starting the next streaming. But we will talk about more things in a month or so. Tatiana, how do you feel about this way of thinking or acting when people don't like to say that someone else did the work? I'm not. I don't understand it, Tatiana. I don't understand it. I'm still don't understand it. But at the beginning of my career, when I started working on the jewelry, I started trying to convince to the client to being able to post some images of the job, but I quit from that idea because. But also it depends of the kind of work we are talking about. It is a very good job. I try to convince the client or try to being able to post something, but most of the time, when even more when you are working for clients, you are not creating, you are not expressing yourself as an artist. You are just trying to receive orders from another person and to try to make the things as closer as possible as what you receive as our original concept. Most of the time, I don't like the things that I do for all the clients because I don't like the designs that they are designing. So I don't care about the don't being able to post images. But in some cases, yes, because they are probably it is a cool design, but it's not very often. I prefer to make my own stuff and post them on my social. And this is one connection that I have with this lives and with the streamings because every single design that I do, it goes directly to my website or to my Instagram and so on. This is the time that I am putting for creating my own stuff, the live sessions here with Maxon. How many hours do I usually sculpt daily? It will depend on the day. When you start getting older, you start putting less and less time. But trying to, if we try to find an average, maybe we can try at least to be 6 hours a day. I try to be here maybe between 5 or 6 hours, depending on the workload that I have. Maybe we can say from 6 to 8, 9, depending on the workload. But I try at least to being at least 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening. It could be a good average. Okay, AJ, thanks to you. You are welcome. It has been very fun to be here with all of you talking, and I will be here next month. So take care, everybody. We will talk more about jewelry and ZBrush in a month. So bye, goodbye.